There's an old bushman's tale that says that if you say the words adventure gold into a pan full of water, the man himself will appear onto your gold fields and give you advice. Adventure gold. Adventure gold.
Adventure gold.
G'day. Sir. G'day guys, Chris here from Vo-Gus Prospecting. Today is the first episode of season 2 and I can't wait to share with you several things that we've got going on. But the first thing I wanted to tell you is that season 2 is all about going back to basics. It's about showing you the fundamentals of prospecting. And this is not to be confused with beginners prospecting. This is more a look at the application of equipment and knowledge on the creek. And what I want to do is basically give you a digital version of an apprenticeship that we're also going to be giving Mick whilst we're out in the Aussie bush looking for gold. This first episode is about stripping everything back to the raw essentials, and we're going to use the most basic equipment to go out on the creek and extract as much gold as we can. And I hope to show you by the end of this episode that you don't necessarily need the most expensive and fancy equipment, and a lot of the time we can look past the advertising to get the best use out of the equipment we already have. I've said often enough that the best pan, the best detector, the best sluice that you can have is the one that's out there on the creek with you working. And what I want to do in this first episode is show you the array of equipment I feel that every new prospector should own. What I want to reiterate in this segment as well is that the equipment I show you, there are many different versions of the same thing. And all you have to do is find one that suits your budget. They all work exactly the same. And this is really important to remember. If you can only afford one type of thing and you can't afford what is perceived to be the best in prospecting, honestly, it doesn't really matter. You can use a saucepan to pan for gold. So any kind of gold pan is going to work just as effective as what the most expensive one will. As time goes on, you will make subtle changes to this kit and you will be able to basically modify it for what suits you best. This is the essential bits of kit that I think all prospectors will have either in their pack or in their arsenal, no matter how long they've been doing it. Up this end we've got a breaker bar, we've got a little brush, we've got a shovel. You can have a shovel of any size, I just put this because it fits on my bonnet. We've got a little scoop, we've got a scraper, a yabby pump, snuffer bottle, classifier and pan. And with these tools I'll guarantee you, you can still collect an absolute ton of gold if you know how to implement them correctly. Andrew's favourite, the bog roll. A lot of people feel that spending more money will mean they'll get more gold, but it's never about the equipment when it comes to prospecting and many other hobbies in the world, and it's all about how you actually apply these tools to your craft. And that's what I want to show you today. We're going to take this pan out, my cheap $10 pan, not my big expensive $45 Minelab pan, and what we're going to do is collect gold with it. And at the end of the day, we're going to show you how much gold we got with a cheap plastic pan. Just to give you a bit of a concept of what's possible with one of these. We're also going to talk to you in episode 2 about the implementation of this. So this is a demonstration day, and the next episode will be explaining about how we implemented that plan. There are other items that you're going to need, something like a yabby pump. This has collected me more gold than any of the shovels I have ever owned, and it's simply because gold sits on bedrock, and even if you're Zorro with a shovel, you're not picking it up with one, I guarantee you. This is probably the most expensive bit of kit you're going to have to purchase, so it'll set you back somewhere between $50 and $75 from most fishing shops. I've got a custom made scraper that was CNC machined by one of my subscribers, Wayne. It is a beautiful piece of craftsmanship, but you could use a bent screwdriver. They work just the same. This is a $4 bulb planter. It's perfect for metal detecting because it's made out of hardened plastic, and it's very light so you can throw it in your backpack. It takes up no room, no weight, and it will allow you to get into those crevices and clean them out properly. You can use any shovel you want. This is my backpack shovel, but honestly, a full-length shovel that you don't have to bend over is perfect for running sluices. The only thing you want to buy with a shovel is a pointy nose. The amount of people I see that go out with flat-nose shovels and have the worst time of their lives is unbelievable. Do yourself a favor, always buy a pointed nose shovel. Then we've got brushes. You can pick up brushes anywhere. You can go to Bunnings and you can buy all sorts of different length brushes. You could make your own like this is. Again, this is a Wayne invention. Aluminium tubing, and you've got some nice fiberglass bristles up the other end. One of the most important bits of kit in your entire arsenal is going to be some sort of breaker bar. They cost in and around 10 bucks from an automotive store if you get a little automotive pry bar, all the way up to spending probably close to 100 if you want to buy a really good, decent, fancy one. And these gain you access to the gold. The last thing is a snuffer bottle. Now this is my snuffer bottle. It was made from a friend of mine named Hamish, and it's a tomato sauce bottle with a straw stuck in it. That's how cheap it is. You would throw this out, but you can just grab it and make one. So all in, your kit is probably going to cost you somewhere in and around $120, and this is more than enough kit to get out there and start finding mammoth amounts of gold. So without further ado, let's start talking about equipment, start getting on the creek and using it. You're as old as Andrew, you need naps just walking to your location. Last night, Andrew and I came down to the creek, sussed out this little area, and we had a good look at some cracks and crevices. Now, cracks and crevices is where it is at when you're using just the most basic of materials. If you're just using something like a pry bar and a yabby pump or whatnot, don't worry about working gravels. Go use your time efficiently. That's what prospecting is all about after all. So we're going to efficiently work some cracks and crevices today, and I'll show you the one we found last night. We came down here and we saw some little gravels just in a sort of depression in the bedrock that wraps around in an L shape, and I stuck my fingers into this crack here. Now, most of the gravel in here had already been pumped out by someone else, but when I got my finger down in here, it goes very deep and I can feel a lot of clay. Well, we came around here and we got Andrew's cold chisel in there. We smashed up this part of the bedrock and we revealed what is called a pocket. So there's a pocket of gold, well, we hope gold, a pocket of gravel down in this corner here. We're going to keep working on this, pop this all open, and hopefully get some nice little bits of gold that potentially have never been touched before, because you really have to wail on this to get it open. Now, there's one bit of equipment that I didn't mention at the start, and that is a chisel. Buy yourself a masonry chisel. I've got to do exactly the same thing, because what you can't get in with a pry bar, you'll probably will be able to do with a chisel. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Whilst I start my hard rock mine, Andrew's just gone and found some gold. You've got to be happy with that. First pan of the day on money. My first pan of the day, and I have not yet got full access. There's a lot of gravel down there that I need to really wail on that bloody chisel to get to. Have a look. Look at that little picker. This crack is kicking my ass and I can't chisel through it even though there's a thin bit there, so I'm going to use my scraper and try and get all of the dirt into an area that I can yabby pump. we might have gained sweet access. When in doubt, change positions, because if you can't get the bit you want, work bits around it, and then sometimes the bit you want pops. This is pockets. Let me show you the gravel that's hiding inside the bedrock. Oh yeah, we got maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 15 bits. 15 alright specks of gold for that, and a couple of shotgun pellets. Last night, Andrew showed me my first ever bit of gold on bedrock. I've never seen it just sitting in situ before, just there. Surprising, I know. I found my own one for realsies. I scratched out the crevice that was at the back of that. Yabby pumped off the bottom again. This is the dirt we got. And this is the gold we got.
What am I holding in my hand?
You are holding my GoPro Hero 6.
Where was your GoPro Hero 6?
I put my GoPro Hero 6 in my bag.
How long did we spend looking for your GoPro?
10 minutes or so.
I tell you what, some people are just a dead set worry.
Mick has arrived. Now Mick is the season 2 apprentice, and what this entails is me just giving him the background knowledge and skills that he needs to develop into a true blue full-on prospector. And that's the thing, that's exactly what this season is about. Going back to basics, the fundamental teachings of prospecting that see people get more gold. I'm going to reiterate this a million times. It's never about the equipment. It's all about the knowledge base, and that's what we're doing with Mick. Mick has actually found a spot. We're going to go check it out. Now, Mick has found this spot all on his own. I haven't seen it yet. We're gonna analyze it. Analyze, yeah. We've got a nice bit of bedrock waterfall coming down here, so we know there's going to be super fast water coming across this. And the only way that gold is going to get trapped is if there is a nice pocket, a nice crevice or crack that works like a sluice riffle, creates a back pressure and sucks gold back into it. And he's potentially found one, because right here we've got a very high shelf of bedrock and it's creating a beautiful low pressure zone on this side. So if there's any cracks and crevices in and along this edge, then he could be on the money. And he said he's got one that's full of tree roots. This is perfect stuff. There is a reason they call miner's moss, and this is one of them. These tree roots had worked their way into a rock. That rock creates a crevice, well, the tree roots create a crevice in that rock, and then anything else that falls in on top of those roots gets trapped. Works just like miner's moss in your sluice. So the one other thing I want to talk to you about is the modification of your own equipment. Now, when I said at the start you can get away with a cheap pan, you can definitely get away with a cheap pan. You get away with an expensive pan. You can use pretty much any bit of gear you want, and it will work if you use it in the right spot and correctly. One of the things you want to remember though is that everyone is different and people like different things. So personally for me, I like a pan that has sort of a mid-sized base. When you get the really big bases, I find there's too much gravel in them. It's too heavy for my torn rotor cuff, and I find it easy to control that mid-sized base. Same goes for the small bases. They've got their time and place, ultralight backpacking, but I don't like the small base because it amplifies any movement you make in that pan, and I just don't want to have to think that hard. So this is, again, personal choice and depends on what you're comfortable with. See, Andrew's using a small base pan. I can't handle these things too well. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, look at it come out. I have found a nice fractured bit of bedrock. It's just sort of broken up and shattered. It's falling apart in my hands. Very good likely spot. We'll yabby pump that out and see what's in there. Have a look at the gold. That's a really good ratio. I was walking downstream to go and meet up with Andrew and see what he's up to, and I just spotted this beautiful, beautiful old channel of river gravel. By all the river gravels are sitting in the bank here, and we've got some bedrock contact here and here. What I'm going to do is scratch out one of the cracks here and just see what's hiding in the old gravels. Right, this dirt, what is in it? Oh yeah, we got about a dozen micro bits, one nice flat bit, and a little roly-poly bit just there. Here's a circle. That's not bad considering I wasn't quite in contact with the bedrock. We did tell you at the start of this video, if you say Adventure Gold 3 times, he comes out and shows you around our own gold fields. It's a really handy tip. He's brought me to a spot. He's already found a picker and a specimen bit of gold. We'll show you that in a second. In the meanwhile, I've got my eye on something. Got my eye on this. This is bedrock, but we've got lots of large river gravels that are packed into what is a V-shaped crevice. And we'll just see what we can scratch out of here with some of our crevicing tools. Just scraping gravels off the top. There wasn't a crevice there. I did okay. We've got about 15 bits of gold in there. Just off the top. Second pan of just gravels, and we picked up a shotgun pellet and about a dozen bits of gold. So this is proving out to be a very nice little spot. We're going to get the scraper in there now and give it a red hot crack, get proper good pay dirt out. We've got this probably 90-ish% clean, a little bit more work to do to get it absolutely there. This is the dirt we got, way more oxides in there. It's very rusted soil. And Andrew was just pointing out that there's a run of ironstone that actually comes about where he's working and it basically scoots in over the top of this rock and flows through here. So we know we're probably on the right line. Let's find out what we've got. Would you look at that? We got some bits. They're probably the nicest bits I've panned today overall. Like, there's a lot of nice bits. Usually I'm getting 1 or 2 okay bits per pan, but that's quite nice. About 3 episodes ago, I talked about going ultralight to get out further on creeks where you could get access to crevices that potentially have never been touched, at least not in recent times. And part of that advice was to ditch your gumboots in favour of an ultralight footwear to save you energy. After that video aired, I got contacted by a company called Alida, and Alida make ultralight wet shoes designed for hiking. The concept is that you go out into the bush and you go and have your blast of a time, and if you're doing it in the rain, no matter how much Gore-Tex and how good and expensive your boots are, because of the way that water runs off your body, down your pants and into your shoes, they're going to get wet. You're likely also to cross streams and several other things that are going to get your feet wet. So they just looked at that and went, you know what? We can do something about this, and they've done it. These shoes are absolutely amazing. I've been using them over the last several trips to get a good feel for them. They're extremely comfortable and they're designed to drain. They've got drain holes in the bottom, and all the material up the top is a synthetic material that lets water pass straight through the shoe as opposed to collecting in it. So I wanted to say a massive thank you to Alida for doing it, and I'm going to continue to use these in the creek and give you more of a feel for what they're like. But if you are interested in them, I have dropped a link in the description below, and I think these are a very handy tool to have in your arsenal if you're like me and like to get remote out on creeks and in wet weather. Last pan of the day, and I got 8 little bits. At the end of what has been an extremely hot day, that's why I called it quits. Andrew's probably ready to get going again and get straight back in the water and find more pickers and specimens. We've had a brilliant day using just some of the most fundamental and basic prospecting tools. We've gone out there, and I think we've both probably cleared at least half a gram plus. I mean, there was a decent amount. Well, Andrew looks suddenly shocked and scared about that. Maybe a little less.
If I add the lead to it, easy half a gram.
Okay, including lead, he's got at least half a gram.
Yep.
I reckon I've got somewhere in and around a gram. I'm going to show you that gold in a second, and I'll do a weigh up when I get home. And I hope that what I've showed you has been educational in the sense that we've shown what is possible with these tools. You don't need the best. You don't need the every tool under the sun dragged out in the bush to still find good gold. It's sitting out there waiting for you to get it with nothing more than basically a pry bar, a cold chisel, and a pan. And if you've got some of those basic tools, you can start getting really good gold today. There is another thing that I wanted to mention though. In the next episode, we're going to talk about the application of these tools. Today I showed you what's possible, and in the next episode we're going to show you just about how to go about those things. And me and Andrew have got a little bit of advice for you going forward into the future, which is if you're someone that hasn't been able to find gold, even though you have the technical expertise, even though you know how to sluice, you know how to pan, you might know how to detect, and you're still not having any luck, Andrew's got probably one of the best bits of advice any of us can give to you.
When you're first getting into it and you're heading out and you're trying these different areas and you're just not quite getting the gold you're after, the one bit of advice that is going to see that change is you've got to persist. If you chuck it in, the next spot you dig could actually have a couple of good pickers. So persistence is the key. Sometimes it'll happen really quick, and sometimes it might take a few months, but if you persist, eventually it will all come together and you'll be finding gold like that.
And Andrew was saying before as well that it's a learning process. You know, one technique that you might learn on a certain creek or river will work really well, and you'll start to understand how that creek works and where the gold is actually sitting. And when you transfer those skills to another creek, even though the principles might be the same, the soil consistency and makeup might be different, and that will cause you to have to learn a new area. And that's where persistence comes in. It's about methodically working each and every individual spot that you're in to completion without just packing up and leaving because you've only found nano dots at the start. Believe it or not, we both get skunked regularly. We get many pans where you find micro gold or none at all, and it's about our ability to keep looking that eventually finds us gold. I spent a whole day out with Steve several months ago and I found 0 gold until the last pan I found a 1/4 gram picker. So all my gold came in one bit, and if I'd given up early I never would have found it.
Probably the most important tool. And the good thing is you've already got it. Even if you don't have a single thing, if you don't have a pan, a digger, a scraper, or anything, it's your eyes. Use your eyes. Every time you go to a creek or every time you go to an area, look around. Take half an hour before you even pick a tool up and just walk around and have a look. Your eyes will tell you a lot about an area.
Yeah, no, I literally could not agree more with that. That is absolutely right.
Well, I only just thought of that like you were saying, but yes, your eyes are probably the best tool you got.
Yeah, no, 100%, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to put you on top of the gold, and that's what's going to allow you to find those deposits. Your eyes will very gradually grow accustomed to picking up the indicators of gold in the area that you're working. So things
such as ironstone.
Yeah, such as ironstone, and you'll start to identify that very quickly, but it does take time and that patience and persistence. Right, let's show you the gold. This is the gold that I got for the last day and a half's worth of scratching around with all the tools that you saw me. We got a couple of nice little coarse bits that I can classify as pickers, and of course they make the ever important noise. And I'm going to guesstimate that there's probably 3/4 gram to a gram there. This is Andrew's gold, and I think he's right, including the lead. He might have 1/2 gram there. Most of it's ultra fine though, so even on this camera you're not going to be able to pick up a lot of the dots that are sitting up there. That mustard gold is incredibly difficult to capture, especially if you've never done it before, and like Andrew was saying on his video and on mine, that you'll more than likely wash that sort of gold straight out of your pan, even if you're trying really hard. So to have it at all is a huge bonus. Well guys, I want to say a massive thank you for watching the start of season 2. I can't wait to bring you more episodes and teach you more stuff about the fundamentals and basics of prospecting. Massive shout out to Mick for coming out today. He's dragged his weary bum all the way from Wodonga to come out and chill out on the creek with us today. Andrew though deserves an absolute medal for what he's done. He drove all day yesterday, he chilled out with Sean on the creek as well from what's his busted knuckles prospecting, so his brain's not working today. And then he finally got here in the afternoon to wash a couple of pans, and it's been a long time in the making, so I want to say a massive thank you to Andrew coming down, and I hope he's going to meet a lot of other prospectors while he's down here in Victoria. And from me, as always, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Peace, and I'm out. Lump. When you're working fractured bedrock